iRacing.
Last time out, everybody thought that everything was bigger in Texas. We may have just found a track that is a little bit bigger than that. It is so big, this circuit, it is known as a grand course. A grand course at a grand circuit at America's version of the Green Hell. This is the Virginia International Raceway. This is the Skip Barber Racing School Formula iRacing Series. And this is the second round of the championship in what is the most important round that they are going to find so far, one of the most important series in the world of sim racing. This is where we were last time, the Circuit of the Americas. This is where we are now at VIR, and this championship runs through every great circuit that America has to offer, heading to Road America 1 week from today. Following that, the short and tricky Lime Rock Park, and then it's a return back to VIR to end the season. But here in Alton, Virginia, we are set for the longest, largest challenge of the season. It's Jake Sperry and Joey Atterbury here to bring you through all the action. Joey, this 23-corner monster is one that, simply put, is rarely run because it's rarely tamed.
It is incredibly long. You're going to use every single piece of asphalt at Virginia International Raceway, one of my most favorite places to go to in the entire world. So yeah, we're going to get the spectacle of the front straightaway, the climbing S's, even the oak tree turn, minus the oak tree. But then on that back straightaway, we're going to take a U-turn known as turn number 13 and do that entire interior grand course before popping back up out at the roller coaster. We do the entire roller coaster section down through Hogpen and across the start-finish line. VIR is just one of the most amazing racetracks in the world. It's only about 45 minutes east of Martinsville, another very popular racetrack, albeit a different type of car.
Very much so, but this is today a run at the championship, and last time out, it was a game of defense which decided who would get along with what overall. Will it be a little bit different where you have to be a little bit more aggressive out there overall? That is the question that will be asked. It was Victor Miranda who would walk out of Circuit of the Americas and walk into today as the overall championship leader, the top three being the most important to keep in mind because they bank themselves one of the biggest prizes in all of esports, with Ivan Machado in second and Cody Deeth finding himself in third position overall. So there was certainly a sense that those drivers were going to put themselves in the mix, Joey. But one thing to note is that this is going to be one of the few circuits where patience is going to have to be relied on.
You're going to have to be extremely patient, and that's what we're going to learn about, especially with this grand course here at the Hot Lap from GSRC.
Welcome to Virginia International Raceway. Only a short trip away from the state's border with North Carolina, this track has had the rare blessing of being resurrected from the dead. After closing for a quarter century, once it was rebuilt, it quickly began to draw major sports car series to its halls. The new owners didn't skimp on refurbishing the place either. An impressive 5 versions are available on iRacing with a range between 1 and 4 miles in length between them. With that much pavement, the plethora of corners have earned some colorful nicknames. The horseshoe kicks things off right away with a never-ending double apexer that tends to suck the greedy out into its runoff. Later on, the climbing S's force you to thread the needle before spitting you out into the steep drop at South Bend. Then, of course, there's Oak Tree, which sadly no longer sees its namesake landmark on the inside of the turn, but still retains its frustrating difficulty. Let's not forget one of the scariest obstacles at the end of the lap, the roller coaster. The incredible speed drivers carry up into this blind braking zone is what causes it to require such immense bravery to get the most out of the lap. While passing can be tricky here, the long backstretch nicknamed Madison Avenue and the lengthy front stretch do tend to offer enough of a draft that you can still give a go at a pass. Still, track position is usually an important factor in most races. With the picturesque backdrop of the Appalachians around them, fans are not left wanting when they come to watch drivers face off at this historic track. It's no wonder the circuit has found success in its second chance at life.
Well, this is one of the few circuits in the world that you sit down and you look at and go, wow, there is so much great racing pedigree that you find around this circuit that tests almost every single element of a driver, and especially this grand layout when you've got that middle sector, Joey. I think that's going to be really important. That run through the spiral and effectively what makes the roller coaster, the run from about turn 17 A, B, C, D and onwards. Effectively, you're making alphabet soup when you're trying to make that run to the roller coaster proper.
When we think about VIR, we typically think of the full course. It's very fast, it's very flowing, but yeah, you're right. In the grand course, we just add a whole nother section right into the back straightaway, and that section is quite slow. It's incredibly technical, so it turns this fast-flowing racetrack into something a little bit slower, a little bit more methodical, that the drivers are really going to have to be patient, especially with those steering wheel inputs and those brake and throttle inputs around those slower corners. That's where you're going to make or lose a lot of time.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing these drivers looking to try and really make up that time and really make those inroads into the championship. But this is what they are racing for here, not just tonight, but over the course of the season. Now, the top three in this championship received themselves a 3-day racing school program with the Skip Barber Racing Series and an entry into the shootout in October, where the winner of that will get a fully funded seat into the Skip Barber Racing Series, which is huge. 4th and 5th will get a 1-day racing school with Skip Barber. All hot lap qualifier entrants will receive a single one-time $200 credit to the Skip Barber Racing School. And of course, the hard charger, the driver who gains the most in the race from where they start to where they finish, will receive a 1-day racing school. Joey, that is a prize pool worth about $500,000 US.
It's incredible what Skip Barber Racing School is putting out there on the table for these sim racers to then go and take it into the real reality of things. It's just an awesome opportunity that every single racer is looking for.
They absolutely are. And let's talk about those up at the pointy end of the championship, because Victor Miranda's defensive efforts gave himself the advantage here today, moving into the grand course. Ivan Machado finds himself 5 points adrift, with Cody Deeth, who looked like he had the biggest pace. He's part of the 10K iRacing club in iRacing. He finds himself in 3rd after the opening weeks. Aiden Young is 4th, with Matt Buser ever consistent in 5th, as Felipe Cabrera will find himself in 6th, tied on points with Nicholas Lagalbo. Shannon Morris is in 8th position, with Leo Ovcharov in 9th, who is up there near the pointy end of the racing, as Sergio Ostos would round out the top 10 overall. But as things look, Joey, for a series like this, it's a who's here style of series. You have to pre-qualify into the top 20 for every single round, which means there is no guarantee for any driver in this series to say, I've got a position on lock, and that includes the championship leaders.
You have to put in the effort week in and week out. It doesn't matter if you're good at one track or one specific car. You have to be good at 5 different racetracks here in this series. So it's going to be a few new names out here. I think I saw 7 or 8 different names from what we saw in round 1. So yeah, there are a few new players.
There are a few new players, and so that dynamic of racing, I think, is going to be a little bit different. Now, we do have a look at what makes this racing series important, because it's not just the one race here tonight. It's the 2 races tonight in the iRacing Formula IRO4, or as it's sometimes known, the FIA F4. You've got 2 wonderful races coming up. The first is 15 minutes long, and that race, wherever they qualify and wherever they finish, sets that grid up for race 2, which is once again another run of 15 minutes worth of action. Now, these drivers are all running on the same setup, so there is no advantage for being able to fettle and fine-tune. You've got to drive the car as stock and find the biggest way forward in the race using driver skill. And that, Joey, I think is something that certain drivers have that skill over certain other drivers.
The easiest way to explain a fixed setup is it is a true spec race out there. Now, when we think of spec cars, they're all the same, but you can go in and adjust the suspension settings. Well, not here in this world. In iRacing, they are literally the exact same, so it is up to that driver to understand the performance window. What is the front tire going to give me? What is the rear tire going to give me? Where's the gearing for every single corner? And then you have to put all of those puzzle pieces together, get out there in that race car, and extract all of that speed for the perfect lap to qualify you even just to get into the show.
Well, this just gives you an understanding of what the infield is like. It is technical as anything. We focus with Jeffrey Decker right now, passing the Patriot pit on the right-hand side, left-hand side of the screen, and running towards that roller coaster on hot shot qualifying. 1 lap only will count, and the former pro Stripe is now looking to make his way down the roller coaster and heading towards the hog pen, which is the final section of road out on circuit. Track falls away from you every single stage, and dancing now for the power and making that run. 225 is what we were looking at in practice. Decker will be one of the first drivers over towards the line. It's a long haul over 55 seconds to go, and puts down a nothing in terms of time. So we'll have to go from the back. Currently, Ivan Machado the fastest.
And maybe we can explain that a little bit. Is it looks like, yeah, even Machado 225 right now, 0.303. If you go and get an incident point in qualifying, it will disallow your lap. That usually happens from maybe running a little bit too wide on one of those exit curbs or taking too much of an apex curb. If you pick up that 1x incident point, well, there goes your qualifying lap.
And it is such an important lap out there when you've got the entire race to try and claw back that time. And that ability to go forward will be inside the final 10 seconds then of qualifying, as I believe we're only waiting on Andrew Moran to put a lap time in, and then we'll be pretty much there and set, looking at how they line up for the first heat. And that, I think, is going to be a very important port of call. So, confirmation then, the pole position will be held by the driver second in the championship, Ivan Machado, who will be there on a 225.302. It's Felipe Cabrera Loyola alongside for company on the front row. Victor Miranda, the championship leader, starts from third, and ever a consistent driver in this series. Matt Caruana goes fourth. His heroics last time out, last season, I should say, against Diogo Pinto was something to be seen at Road Atlanta. Leo Ovcharov starts fifth alongside Byron Mitchell, with Michael Polasek and Aidan Young 7th and 8th, 1,000th between them only. 9th belongs to Cody Deeth, who's got it all to do in the race, and he's got Patrick Hingston alongside him in 10th.
Then in 11th on row number 6 is Matt Busa. Next to him is going to be Clay Moore starting in 12th place. Ross Banfield starting from 13th with Cade Middleton next to him. Mitchell Ian Green here in 15th with Sebastian Cedeno-Cheteni in 16th. Shoma Shintani in 17th with Jeffrey Decker in 18th. And then on the final row is Andrew Moran in the number 12 car, as well as Matt Adams in 20th place.
All those drivers 17th on back are split by their iRating overall. That's how they sort the drivers out when they haven't set a representative flying time. So it does pay to do official series racing from time to time, because you will, on average, get a better grid slot if your qualifying time does not count. Now, it's going to be a shortened run here in terms of what they go. Look at that track temperature, though. I think that is the biggest tell of anything right now. It's hot here in Virginia. It is 125 Fahrenheit track temperature.
I am not surprised if anybody has been to VIR in August. Yeah, if anything, that air temp is on the light side, but 125, that means the drivers are going to be dealing with low grip on every single part of this track. I explained it at COTA. It's not just one area of the racetrack when it gets hot like this that it takes away from. It's all the way. It's from power. You don't go as fast down the straight line. You don't have the braking grip out of the tires. You don't have that apex lateral grip that you want in the middle of the corner. And then even rolling onto that throttle with your right foot, you have to be careful on corner exit. It's just going to be overall a low grip racetrack.
Now, talk very quickly, Joey, about this run through the infield and what it means for the rest of the lap, because you lose that great overtaking opportunity here at the roller coaster. It becomes a lot more difficult.
It does, but you know what? It's just more of a technical racetrack. You're going to have to be a little bit more of a go-kart style, autocross style. The shortest distance is going to be the fastest way around that smaller, slower technical area, but I still think the biggest passes are going to happen at turn 1 at the end of the front straightaway.
Well, that's where we're going to start with, because the iRacing pace car is going to move down into the pits, put 15 minutes on the clock in the hands of Ivan Machado here at VIR. A grand course with a grand race, and who is going to find what they want? Green flag in the air, and we are underway and racing, and immediately the swarm is there. Miranda pulls right in behind Ivan Machado, and on the outside there'll be 3 wide in towards the opening horseshoe, looking for the run as they go through. And crucially, you've got drivers trying to find that way. Felipe Cabrera has dropped 2 places off the start. Matt Caruana immediately up to 3rd after missing the opening round outright. Now then NASCAR Ben, there's trouble in the middle of the pack, but as we go through, there goes Cody D for a 360, and everybody gets caught up.
Looks like 3 cars collected there in the turn 4, 5, 6 section as the top 5 start to break away. That's Ivan Machado, Felipe Cabrera, Victor Miranda. That is your top 3 as we go up towards the uphill S's for the first time with the downforce levels. You can just keep your foot to the floor, enjoy the ride up the hill.
It was Leo Ovcharov who went for the spin. Cody Deeth caught up third in the championship, as well as Aiden Young 4th. Here goes Caruana down the inside, and he gets turned. He spins himself around, caught up, and it's Felipe Cabrera as well at the oak tree, causing troubles. This lap 1 has been dynamic and troublesome for many drivers. It leaves 2 drivers now at the front of this field, in Perez and Miranda out there at this point, but everybody now is just trying to find an angle. Felipe Cabrera looking around as Matt Busa and co tries to find a way through at unlucky turn 13, and now heading for the spiral.
And did you see Felipe Cabrera capitalize on that turn 13? Those 2 cars definitely went in too deep, but this is where it gets technical, much slower. Look at all of the elevation, and if you drive VIR, you might not know this section of racetrack very well, and here's Cabrera already trying to make a move. That's Matt Busa directly in front of him. It could just be the first lap, getting into the warmth of things. Remember, you got to get those tires and everything up to temperature. Busa definitely wagging the tail quite a bit.
He is, Matt Busa, driving loose at the moment, using all of that experience over a decade with the eNASCAR series and doing so well. And around the outside, why not? Matt Caruana is going to be driving aggressive from here to the end of this race after what's happened. You've also got Shoma Shintani, the Japanese driver, there sat on the back of this in 8th place. Started 17th on the grid, has gained 9 spots on the opening lap, and is looking to go double digits here on the outside, heading towards the horseshoe.
Yeah, that's him on the outside, Shintani. So let's see how deep both of these cars can go. Is there going to be any contact? Oh, a little bit of wheel into side pod there. And usually the shorter distance around is going to win. But now Shintani's going to have the inside going around NASCAR Ben. This should be pretty easy. Move that number 9 car up into 7th. Oh, he runs out wide but is able to defend. Thankfully does not get run into the back of.
Just about shut the door there on Felipe Cabrera, who thought that Christmas came back. Now here's Clay Morris and Mitchell in green. Heavy contact there as they go through the snake to start it off on lap 2. And it's Clay Morris missing front and rear, who will now be out here in race 1.
I don't know if the other car picked up any sort of damage. Looking at this number 3 car of Aiden Young. Remember, Aiden did quite well in the first round. He's sitting in, I believe, 4th place in the championship. He was one of our first race podium finishers. He's got a little bit of work to do, though, outside the top 10 currently.
Yeah, and of course he was caught up with Ovcharov and Cody Deeth, so that's what's put him back. And this is what you often see with Aiden Young. He has his father there in the background. Always there, wanting to lend a helping hand out to Aiden as much as he can, and often acts as his spotter during the races. And it's always good that you've got the family out there helping you every way they possibly can, and that moral support is there and is huge as Andrew Moran looks at 9th place.
Seems like Cade Middleton is kind of the cork in the bottle right now. You see everybody stacking up behind him, including Andrew Moran, the driver that Jake was just saying, but it's Cade that gets a good exit coming out of turn number 16, so it kind of puts him at stiff arm length. Everybody else behind You got to gather it up, gain the momentum back, and I think your best passing opportunity, if you're stacked up, is going to be that turn 1 after the front straightaway. Try to use that slipstream, gain on the car in front, but the most important part, through this roller coaster section they're coming up to, you got to be in touch.
It's Matt Caruana getting turned for the second time in this race. He was diving for the inside against Michael Polasek. That was for 4th place, and Caruana has got a really clenched jaw right now, down in 15th, and he will feel like this has been an effort that has not met his match at this point. A massive shake of the head there and a sigh and a big puff out of the cheeks pretty much says, I am not pleased with how this race has gone so far.
Remember, he started up inside the top 5, and now he finds himself in 14th place. A lot of speed all the way in the back. I agree with you. Definitely frustrated, and I think that's one of the things with this 15-minute race format. You have to be aggressive, but it's a two-edged sword, right? If you're too aggressive, you can find yourself spinning out and losing those positions.
Decker having to leave the door open for Aiden Young there, but carrying the speed through the left hook and the subsequent right hook that follows like the Olympic boxing, and then running along the snake and now heading up towards the top. Jeffrey Decker now looking for everything he can, a little look up, hoping that he's got everything in check at the moment, trying to stay with that group of 3 in front while this has all been going on. It's been too clear at the front of this field, and they've not been split by half a second for the entirety of this run. Ivan Machado and Victor Miranda, who are out there at the front, they've pulled a 3.5 second gap over Byron Mitchell in 3rd position, and Byron's had a very quiet but very underrated race so far.
All right, give credit where credit is due, and these front 2 are just setting the world on fire in terms of these lap times on the Grand Course. 225.4 from both of our top 2 that last time around. Byron Mitchell, who is in that 3rd place, but like you said, 3 seconds back, 225.7. So I do feel like Ivan Machado and Victor Miranda out here putting to good test here how fast they really are at VIR.
Well, this is where you've got to really keep your eyes peeled, because this group, all of a sudden, Cade Middleton has lost the place. Andrew Moran through now up into 8th position. There is Cade Middleton right now looking through this wonderful snaking section of roller coaster. You can't hit the brakes at any point, and there is a car slow. That will be probably Shoma Shintani there soon, but sorry, that's Matt Busa, I correct myself, there just in front. Everyone's got to look out through this section of road, and especially through that run of the Patriot section of the circuit, Joey. It's so easy to pick up the iRacing slowdown penalty.
You have to be careful. Barney is always watching, and in the case of Cade Middleton driving this car with the yellow roll hoop, it can almost feel like the floodgates have been opened. You had all these cars lined up behind you, and as soon as one kind of opens up that door and pushes you off the racing line, all of those hungry sharks, wolves, whatever you want to call them, they see that open door, they smell blood in the water, and then they go for it. Sometimes you just find yourself on the wrong side of the road.
Lot of contact there between Matt Adams, the Canadian, and Cade Middleton, getting close towards NASCAR Bend, and Aiden Young finding himself dicing with Matt Caruana for position. Caruana with the search to the inside, this group continuing to be fantastic here at VIR. Middleton in front, Jeffrey Decker's now picked up a place as well, and it's so easy to see that group gain and close. And effectively, when you've got a massive train like this, Joey, how easy is it for you to just completely lose the pack by having a couple corners side by side?
You can, as soon as you get pushed off of the racing line, like I was talking about just a minute ago, it just seems like everybody else is on it and so much faster than you. It almost seems like you're driving on rain and everybody else is just on fresh sticker tires. There's nothing you can do to stop it. I did want to point out that number 3, remember we talked about Aiden Young earlier and how much he's dropped back. This is the best case scenario for him right now because they're stacked up 4 or 5 cars directly in front of him. This is a great opportunity for him to salvage some points, and he's looking down the inside.
Oh, it's Caruana, though, who's down the inside of him. So Aiden Young on the outside track, and for a 3rd time, Matt Caruana finds himself turned around. It is not his day, and he'll take it back to pits and say, I can't do anything more than that. Absolutely heartbreaking for Matt Caruana here today, who went out stage hunting. Mitchell Ian Green finding himself with a little bit of a gap now because of it. And Matt Busa looking at 7th place. Andrew Moran on a charge from 19th up to 7th, your biggest mover in the field, a gain of 12.
Yeah, Matt Busa is going, Andrew Moran is going, and they're all kind of compressing up towards the front of the field. What was 2+ second gaps is now down to 1, and I assume that the slipstream is just going to bring them ever so closer. So as we tick over to 5 minutes remaining, only a third of this race left distance, so we're going to see who can stay up on top.
Victor Miranda, fastest lap of the race, a 2:25.1 in the toe of Ivan Machado. GSRC replay will take a look. This is Patrick Hingston, then down near the back of the field. So this is what happened. He completely blew the corner, went straight on, had to flick the car around there behind the signage and get himself back on and going once more. Had to be very careful on his rejoin that he didn't find himself disqualified, but that was as close as it gets. Watch out for the front though. Victor Miranda starting to close as they head towards the South Bend.
And remember, Victor won our very first race and then came in second in race number 2 back at Austin. So he currently leads our points championship. He's looking pretty good right now. He's just been sitting here behind Ivan Machado the entire race. I wonder if he's just got that notepad out and he's waiting to make the move for the last lap.
Well, Ivan Machado was 2nd and 3rd over at Circuit of the Americas, and that pretty much told you all you need to know about these two. They're very consistent drivers, and they're going to challenge each other all season long for the crown here. And Miranda closing up to a 10th and a half. He'll have Jackson Rosenda in his ears, trying to give him as much help as possible, and he's deciding, you know what, there's no point going for it right now. We've still got 3:45 on the clock. You'll have to evaluate what that timer looks like when they cross the line, but it might just be a 7-lap race here that they're dealing with. They're on lap 5 at the moment, and as they crest their way out of the spiral and head their way now for the start of the roller coaster, 17 A and the flick left of B, and slow at 155 kilometers now through B, C, and then D, and then you're charging through turns 18 and 19 and heading over for that run at the roller coaster.
I think that these are two very smart racing drivers, and if they are, I don't think they're going to fight. Jake was just pointing out that there's no point in making a move. They've built a 4.5 second gap. If Victor goes out there and starts battling our leader, well, guess what? That 4-second gap is going to start to shrink. You might as well run away as far and as fast as you can from everybody else. That way it's just the two of you racing at the end. You can't fall back any further than that unless it's a terrible wreck.
Now, Felipe Cabrera here has got trouble with the front wing, and that's what's costing him the time. Shoma Shintani has moved up into the top 5 from 17th because of the damage to Felipe Cabrera and what he's been caught up in this race. 2 laps to go, and at this point, Felipe Cabrera could very easily fall outside the top 10. There is Sebastian Cedeno making that look then down to the inside, and he's got Mitchell Ian Green, nothing he can do. Sebastian Cedeno Schettini getting the move done.
Nicely done here, and this is going through NASCAR Bend and then through turn 4 here for what is 11th, 12th place. Then we're going to jump back up to our leader. You see 2 minutes remaining, but these cars are doing about 2:25 out there, so I think we will have 1 more lap left as they go across turn number 10, down through this little compression section and into the oak tree corner known as turn number 12 here on this layout, and then on the back straightaway. Remember, don't forget about turn 13 halfway down here.
Well, the one thing to keep in mind is that Victor Miranda has been Ivan Machado's shadow all race long. On the brakes for turn 13, taking a slightly wider line in than Machado, trying to drive out the exit. Massive kick of oversteer for Victor Miranda in the number 2 car out there. So that pretty much says that Miranda is trying everything possible to give this chase, to find that place, and it's not necessarily happening because Ivan Machado here is just about keeping things at an arm's length, and an arm's length is all he needs. It doesn't matter, Joey, if it's inch or mile. A win is a win is a win.
Absolutely, and I think that Machado actually has slipped up a little bit the last 2 laps through this Grand Core section, and you see that number 6 able to close it up a little. I feel like if there's going to be a race-winning pass here, Jake, I'd look towards the front straightaway, towards turn number 1, because this is your high percentage move. And remember, you don't get the second chance after this.
No, you really don't. And there will be Barney waving the white flag as they will head over towards the line, short of being a lap early on this race by 20 seconds as they cross the line. Victor Miranda looking here, looking there, very aggressive on the brakes, almost underneath there, the rain light as he runs on through, trying to get that chance. And this opening sector, Joey, might just be the biggest one of the lot here, through the NASCAR bend and heading for left and right hooks.
Here's another opportunity, but Machado did an excellent job through the 3-4 to carry the momentum and didn't have an open door at all for Miranda. And now through the lower S's, once again, Victor's not going to be able to do anything. Maybe if he can get the slipstream going up the uphill S's, maybe make a move into Oak Tree, but it gets very, very narrow at the top of the hill here.
It really does, and this is where Miranda's got to try and up and under the south bend, commanded by Ivan Machado. He takes a slightly wider line, and that opens up the Oak Tree potentially as a place to go, which of course we loved the Oak Tree when it was there. They chopped it down, and now look at the run onto Madison Avenue for Victor Miranda, looking to the outside track. Ivan Machado perfectly poised in his defense, but it's a very tough turn 13 to get it done around the outside. This is going to take a lot of bravery to get this move sorted, and he's going to throw the car in his Victor Miranda, but Ivan Machado has him scouted here. This needs to be flawless now through the grand section of the circuit, entering the spiral, now down the hill, massive amounts then of changes. Mitchell Ian Green has pulled the car over 1 lap short of this race. I wonder if he ran himself out of fuel or something of that ilk. But now with these two leaders, it is Victor Miranda shadowing every stage of the way, and he's gone over the curbs and over the section of circuit there. He'll take a slowdown penalty, and that will pretty much do that. It was a game of who was going to blink first here in race 1, and Victor Miranda, for the first time really that we've seen this season, has cracked under the pressure. It will only cost him a couple points by comparison to Ivan Machado, who finds himself now with the rainbow fully. He's had a bronze and a silver, so to speak, when it came to Circuit of the Americas, but here at VIR, he will strike gold. Ivan Machado will take race number 1.
It always feels good to stand on that top step. Victor Miranda finds second place with Byron Mitchell rounding out your podium. And then this scrap for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th stays put as Felipe Cabrera leads that group over the line.
A tie on the biggest mover and shaker in the field. Shoma Shintani and Andrew Moran both claiming 12 spots, as the likes of Patrick Hingston will be the final driver heading over towards the line, down in 14th position here. 6 drivers unable to find the checkered flag the way that they would want to in this opener, which will leave a lot of work to do for some very quick drivers like Ovcharov and Banfield and Matt Caruana and Cody Deet, of all drivers there to keep in mind. We'll get a confirmation then of how they have all stacked up in this opening race, and Ivan Machado by 2.2 seconds. It doesn't tell the story of how hard he had to work for those 2.2 by the end. Byron Mitchell, a very, very beautiful podium for him, with Michael Polasek finishing off in 4th and Shoma Shintani rounding out the top 5. Felipe Cabrera Loyola will finish 6th with damage to the front wing, as Andrew Moran would best out Matt Busa with another Matt Adams in 9th position. Jeffrey Decker rounding out the top 10.
Then comes Cade Middleton in the 11th place, Sebastian Sedano Shatani in 12th place, Aiden Young recovers to finish in 13th, Patrick Hingston back here in 14th, and then unfortunately everybody else is going to be at least 1 lap down, including Mitchell Ian Green, Leo Ovcharov, Ross Banfield, Clay Morris, Matt Caronu, and Cody Deeth. A lot of those drivers, especially at the further end of the field, involved in some incidents early on.
think Clay Morris might jump a couple drivers at the end because he's desperately running 3 laps down to try and get to the checkered flag. And if he does get there, he might leapfrog 2 positions, and that might give him a slightly easier time when the racing finishes off. Does cross the line and will officially jump ahead of Matt Caruana only, so we'll finish off in 18th position. So that's the only change then in terms of the results. So Caruana will be classified the number 19 car in 19th. So work to be done there. But a race which pretty much summed up by the opening lap of that one, Joey, because it was all about, if you're at the front, how do you stay out of trouble? Drivers finding themselves being very greedy early on. This is one of the few circuits in the world which actually you do need to have a little bit of respect for how you need to race around here, because this circuit has so many ways to catch you out.
It does, and I think that we're going to see a different shape of a race in race number 2, specifically because we had that incident towards the front of the field, especially on, what was it, lap number 1 or lap number 2 up there at turn 5. So I have a feeling if we don't have that incident kind of splitting up the front group, we should have one big long train, just like what we saw at COTA. And if we have that, I think that there's going to be 4, maybe 5 drivers that have the potential to win this thing. But as we saw back in Texas, it always elevates to maybe 1 or 2 drivers that's got that little bit of speed over everybody else. The one that I'm really curious about, Jake, is that number 19 car of Carana, because he was so fast. He did so good in qualifying, but then it all fell apart for him in the race. We didn't get to see him over at Austin. Can he recover race number 2 here at VIR?
A lot of drivers got caught out by the fact that they do have to show their telemetry data after they've done their hot lap qualifiers, just to prove that their laps are all there and that everybody is fair and equal in that sense. And I think Matt Caruana was one of the drivers who got caught out on that regard. I know Ross Banfield was another. But one thing you need to know in the Skip Barber Racing School Formula iRacing series is that you always have an opportunity, whether you are entering from round 1 of the championship all the way to round 10 at the end, Joey. There is always something you can go out there and race for, be it a hard charger award, be it a chance to get in with the Skip Barber Racing School. There is always something on the line, and everyone, as a sim racer, has a pride to want to win a race.
Yeah, we highlighted those prizes earlier, and you're right, even just qualifying to be one of the qualifiers here to come and race in one of these 5 rounds of 2 races each, you get something from Skip Barber Racing School. Yeah, the ultimate goal is to be inside that top 3, get the trip to VIR, get in the shootout, and then hopefully you get to be in that real race car for the entire 2025 season. That's what we all want to do, is go out there and have a chance to prove ourselves, right? That's what we're doing out here. We're proving that we can win these races. It doesn't matter if it's COTA, VIR, Road America, Lime Rock. Everybody wants that opportunity. Skip Barber Racing School is providing it to sim racers.
It really is, and the sim racers are taking full advantage of it, Joey. The last 2 victors of the Skip Barber Racing Series have come through this series outright. Elvis Rankin for one, and of course the son of the late Dan Weldon, Sebastian Weldon, finished 3rd in this championship. So you really get a sense that this is where I'd say the racing future is found right now. It's in sim racing, because you've got an unlimited tool and unlimited training to go out there and perfect some of the greatest cars out there in the world.
Now, I could ramble on forever about how sim racing provides you that opportunity, but I think that's a great example right there, is that, well, guess what? Not everybody lives by a racetrack. You can have a sim rig in your basement. It's about the same cost of a tag go-kart or a 125cc go-kart, and you can literally practice every single day. Morning, noon, night, midnight. It doesn't matter if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's 100 degrees outside. You can go do practice at any time you want to, and it's only got that upfront cost of the sim rig.
It absolutely does. We'll take a little look at what happened then through the opening race. The top 2 in the championship now have a gap of just 2 points between them now. They came in with 5, and look at how aggressive they had to be on the start of this race, and very quickly they ran themselves into troubles. By the time they got to about turn 3 through the NASCAR bend, this is where the breakdown in communications came in, because drivers started getting greedy. Look, that's the first one there, and then you'll see just in front a little bit more dramas out there, everybody having to scramble about. It's the tiniest bit of contact that pretty much sends an entire field spiraling.
And it happens when you have everybody stacked up off of the start. There you see the Deeth incident with 3 of those cars caught up into it. But it's going to be what happens. You put all of the cars in a very, very small space out here. Everybody's going to be going 2 wide, 3 wide. Some wheels are going to get tangled up, especially in the narrow sections at VIR. But ultimately, throughout the course of this race, it was the 2 cars that kept it cleanest up front that found themselves furthest forward.
And 3 times a spinner, Matt Caruana would have been the other driver who wouldn't have been best pleased with the way that his racing has gone. So here was someone who was trying to get what they wanted out of it and didn't quite manage to find that. I am getting word that we are just about getting set up then for the second race overall, and of course they will start this race the same way that they finished the last one, so it will mean that Ivan Machado will have the pole position along with Victor Miranda, this time on the front row alongside him for company. Byron Mitchell will go from third with Michael Polasek fourth. Shoma Shintani starting this one off in 5th position with Felipe Cabrera Loyola in 6th position. It's then Andrew Moran in 7th along with Matt Busa in 8th, leading Matt Adams in 9th ahead of the former Pro Strike Jeffrey Decker, who rounds out the top 10.
And we have Cade Middleton in 11th, Sebastian Sedano Sheteni in 12th, Aiden Young starting in 13th with Patrick Hingston in 14th, Mitchell Ian Green in 15th. Leo Ovcharov is going to be looking for some new life here in 16th. Same with the rest of the cars. Ross Banfield in 17th, Clay Morris 18th, Matt Carano in 19th, and Cody Deeth starting our last place 20th. Look for that car to be moving forward.
And moving forward, I think, is the key. You've got to avoid the trouble on the opening lap of this race. Everyone knows that this is their last opportunity out there, Joey, to go out and really show what they're made of here at the Grand Course of VIR. They know it's just going to be a 7-day turnaround for the next round of the championship at Road America, which will feel a lot more free and a lot more drafty than this circuit is here at VIR. But the opportunity that you've got to go is that everybody's going to try and put their best foot forward, and sometimes when everyone's got nothing to lose, nobody gives an inch.
I think we get too caught up in race winners, right? We need to keep track of the championship points, especially in a series such as this, where ultimately the goal is to win the championship, be top 3, and book that ticket to VIR. I'm looking at Cody Deeth. I'm looking at Leo Ovcharov because they had such good points rounds at COTA. They did not have a good race one here at VIR. How much can you salvage that? Because the championship is where it matters. Don't be too aggressive. Don't wreck yourself and have another poor race number 2. But you need to be aggressive enough to gain positions and salvage points.
Well, there are 3 drivers that you'd look at who have done very well over that race one who could make charges. Matt Busa, Felipe Cabrera, and you could also say Byron Mitchell. Those 3 might be walking into that top 3 conversation with the results that they've had in race number 1. There are a number of drivers who will have to try and back up a poor performance and try and charge. Drivers like Aiden Young, for example, is someone to definitely keep in mind on this second race. Another 15 minutes to put onto the clock. It's race number 4, and Machado versus Miranda at the front of this field, at the top of this championship, will be worth keeping in mind as everyone else scrambles for places alongside. They wait for the drop of the green flag, which goes now, and another 15 minutes gets put through on the board. And now this is where you've got to be aggressive and find those lines. Everybody trying to pivot towards the inside as much as they possibly can. Miranda searching for that run around the outside, and a pinch point, if that is possible, out of the horseshoe. Now trying to get a big up and under attempt going. It was NASCAR. Ben Machado has got it covered, and it's Shoma Shintani who's going around the outside, and he's got 4th on Polasek.
We had 5 cars go off in turn 1 and 2. It doesn't look like there's any more off yet. Knock on wood out here. Even Machado leading the way, Victor Miranda following. It's almost like deja vu, and then you see 3 wide through the lower S's a little bit further back. I believe that's Michael Polasek that's all out of shape here. I think he might have cut the course and is having to give up a slowdown.
And lap 1's the worst place for it. Look at how they have to scramble up over the top. Polasek down to 16th position because of that. 5 drivers, of course, getting caught up. I believe Sebastian Sedano was, Clay Morris was, Leo of Chara, Patrick Hingston was there, Aiden Young and Mitchell Ian Green were all caught out on the opening lap then in some way, shape or form for the opening corner. Look at the breakaway at the front of this field. It's 4 cars away and the group 5th on back is there. There's Cody Deeth in 13 trying to recover back. It's Felipe Cabrera who is there and will lose out to Matt Booster for place. But look at that, all one's going to go straight on there. Down the escape hatch, 3 will go straight on there, sorry. So Matt Adams there with Michael Polisek going straight on.
Yeah, I think we're almost up to 9 cars off on the first lap here. It shows you that aggression level is cranked up to 10. All of the drivers are just trying to grab whatever positions they really can. If they see an opportunity in a brake zone, they're going to make that lunge. You had mentioned Cody Deeth as well as Matt Carano. They have both gained about 8 or 9 positions each. They find themselves right smack in the middle of the field as we get a GSRC replay.
Well, this is Aiden Young's perspective then on the opening lap. So he tries to find an angle on the brakes, tries to spot for a gap in the middle. Mitchell Ian Green was pretty much heading for the same space, and that's how quickly up in the air it goes wrong for Aiden Young. It would have been very heavy on the floor as he went through, but this is what you get, that concertina effect on the start of the races, and it very much becomes a difficult challenge to even spot a gap for you to stay in your lane.
Look at the draft games being played. I see we have Jeffrey Decker in the pits, a few cars in the pits, I'm not sure, but 3 wide going into turn number 1. Who's on the inside? I believe that might be Cade Middleton on the inside. He's going to defend, and now Matt Carano is going to drive up along driver's right. This is going to be the long way around NASCAR bend. Turn 3 and 4, he carries the momentum, no contact. Move Matt up into 8th.
Absolutely fantastic, and on top of that, it's Cody Deeth who slots away through on Ross Banfield, who drops back into 11th position then with that move. Matt Caruana on a mission right now, and in that 8th place, he is up 11 spots in this race with that group of 3 in front of Musa, Moran and Cabrera, the chasing group that they've got to try and navigate a way to. 4 clear at the front of this field. Ivan Machado, your leader. Victor Miranda in 2nd, who was looking for moves on the opening lap. Then Byron Mitchell and Shoma Shintani making the top 4. This group right now, Andrew Moran having to go defensive here for a Felipe Cabrera, who again has damaged the front left of his front wing.
It's so tough, and if you pick up any damage, you lose a lot of downforce. Now, this racetrack in the Grand Course configuration, it might not be kind of the death sentence of your race if you get a little bit of aero damage, but ultimately it does slow up the car, as it looks like Shoma Shintani making a move. He gets around Byron Mitchell for 3rd place. I'm constantly impressed by this entire group of drivers, but Shoma Shintani, we didn't see at COTA. He's up here in the podium positions.
Absolutely flying. Started 17th today from his qualifying effort, made his way all the way up to 5th in race 1, and now finds himself in 3rd. Cody Deeth on the charge as well, has moved himself in 10th, and he's thinking about 9th against Cade Middleton, and there it looks like a slowdown for Andrew Moran, who's now got to try and serve it just in front, so that will bring into play Matt Caruana, who took a thought about making the lunge there down at the roller coaster. Very much a place where you're going to have to lunge for it if you want to make that pass, but Caruana trying to be a little bit more cautious maybe in this race too. We've seen how big his attacks were earlier on, and you know what, there's still some slowdown left to serve for Andrew Moran, and he is going to have to let them all go on the straight.
I mentioned the comebacks that are necessary. Caruana definitely doing the job out on the racetrack. Same thing with this driver, Cody Deeth, as they're side by side into turn number 1. The shortest distance around, I've mentioned, it usually wins this battle, but if you can hang tough on driver's left side, it does put you in a good position here. So Cody Deeth is up into 7th around Cade Middleton, so he's going to try to go catch his buddy Matt in the number 19. Those 2 cars, in my opinion, at least furthest rearward, have been the fastest.
Yep, so these drivers will all be looking at, can we work together to gain a little place here or gain one there? I think Cody Deeth's trying to get over the radio to say, can I have a bit of help, mate, there from Cade Middleton? And the question is, you can bump draft in these cars, but how much do you want to? Really, it's not something you normally see in open formula, but don't battle me. I'm going to try and chase down this group for all of us to try and go forward. Now, I do want to point back up at that front group because that move made by Shoma Shintani on Byron Mitchell at turn 13 a lap ago, Joey, completely took those two out. And in fact, we got it on for the race lead. Victor Miranda trying the outside line. Once again, working the Oracle to find that move. And again, Ivan Machado has it on a sixpence.
You gotta be careful though. You just mentioned that third driver, Shintani. If these two leaders keep going side by side, battling each other in the break zones and just racing each other, it's just gonna draw everybody else that little bit closer every single time they go up there and fight with each other. So I do like what Miranda's doing because remember, last race, he waited to the last lap, couldn't capitalize on it, so you might as well throw a different pitch here in race number 2.
Absolutely. If the fastball doesn't work, you're going to have to go to the screwball. You're going to have to go to the curve. You're going to have to go to the slider. But at this point in time, they're looking around at who else is going to put themselves in the picture. And Shoma Shintani is hoping that he's going to be someone who is going to be Subarashi at the end of racing in third place. Matt Busa, ever consistent there in fifth. He's got one job and one job only. He wants to book a ticket over to the shootout in October. The one way he's going to do that is by prioritizing consistent finishes. Right now, being 11th to 8th and 8th to 5th, you can't get much more consistent than that.
No, and he finished 5th in both races back at COTA, so maybe 5th is that lucky number for Matt Busa out there. Extreme consistency as we see a little bit of a battle back here. This is for 9th place. Cade Middleton and Ross Banfield going at it. And I do have to give Cade Middleton a little bit of tip of credit over here. It's not always easy when there's drivers filling your rearview mirror every single race. Cade has done a terrific job not to drive dirty. He's left plenty of room for everybody, and he's still out there on the racetrack.
Ross Banfield racing in virtual reality out there at the moment, so he's looking for the most intensive view he can possibly see of all these battles in front, and he'll be turning into the corner pretty much using all the same senses that a race driver has.
I love racing in virtual reality, whether it's this one that you physically strap on your head and then you put on the headphones. It's just like putting on a helmet and transporting yourself inside the race car. Triples are another great option, ultra wides, whatever you want to run. But I think when it comes down to that immersion factor, if you want to practice, if you want to get inside of an F4 car and see what it's actually like at VIR, well, guess what? Virtual reality is an option.
Well, I wouldn't want to be inside the head of Cody Deeth. He just ran wide. He dropped the place back to Felipe Cabrera. There is Cade Middleton, Banfield just behind, and on the group now, Mitchell Ian Green and Leo Ovcharov trying to find a way to charge back forward, down through the spiral. That's Clay Morris in trouble.
Yeah, this is, I think, 2 cars and Andrew Moran also having a little bit of trouble. We've seen a lot of drivers run wide in that brake zone, and typically if there's 2 of them off, hopefully there's not contact, but I bet you one of them went a little bit deep.
I can confirm there was contact between those two, but it was very light into the barriers. It's a heavy drop down there off the side of the circuit, and we'll take a look on replay just to get a sense of this. So Clay Morris here on the outside looking for an opportunity, and this is where you got a little bit of front to rear that comes together, and both of them drop through. Now, this is one of the few circuits in the world, Joey, where it seems like everywhere you go off, you are off the hill and it drops off of the circuit. It's like you're racing on a tightrope.
It really is. You can find yourself, especially if the grass is wet, just stuck out there. You can have an innocent spin, be 15 feet off of the racetrack, and it's literally an uphill climb back to the asphalt. And with racing tires, no grooves on those things, and some wet grass, it can be tough. But thankfully, Barney out here with 125-degree track temperature, these cars can drive it back onto the racing surface.
Well, there won't be any rain there, but I'm sure everyone's going to be sweating in those cockpits right now, trying to get the results they want. Victor Miranda, the story that he has had for what has been 25 minutes worth of racing, staring at the back of Ivan Machado out there at this point. He is looking left, right, up, down, slantways. He has tried everything, including the great glass elevator of Willy Wonka, to try and find a way to make this move, but nothing seems to faze the Spaniard, Ivan Machado.
I think that Miranda is a little bit faster in certain sections of the racetrack, and this is one of them, is coming out of Oak Tree, accelerating towards turn number 13 on the back straightaway. You see even Machado all the way defensive in the middle of the racetrack to kind of block Victor Miranda's run. But I think if there's a good move, I said turn 1 in race number 1. I think Oak Tree is another good option, but I think where Victor Miranda is closest and fastest is on the back straightaway.
I think that's very true. So turn 13 might be where he's trying to get it, but every time he goes for it, it's about the inside, and that's Cody D finding himself in trouble out of said turn 13, and he's done it all by himself. A 360 spin off the exit, just grabbing the grass a little bit too aggressively on the outside. It puts on Charo now inside the top 10, a gain of 6. And Cody D, who was the big mover, it's now Matt Caruana who's up in 5th place. Caruana up 14.
And Cody was kind of following Matt up through the order, but yeah, as you just showed, that 360 not going to do very much for his track position. Check in on Ovcharov here in 10th place. Leo was another one of these drivers that had some good luck down there at COTA. He also had some bad luck. Remember, he was taken out down there at that turn 11 incident. So I think he's looking for some consistency, maybe another top 10 finish here at VIR.
Well, top 10 finishes are all well and dandy. Ovcharov on his day, which we saw at VIR, was going to be big. Victor Miranda going the long way around. A little bit of a slide there. And Machado just about staves off the challenge, but Miranda's going to go big looking on the inside here, heading to the NASCAR bend. Just can't quite get the run. Again, looking massive cut on the brakes. Then once more, Ivan Machado is simply impervious to overtakes.
And we're going to have another lap and a half left because, look, we're only coming up to 2 minutes remaining. So Victor Miranda starting to apply the pressure an entire lap more than what we saw in race number 1. And here we see just the over-under. It's the Serpentine coming out of the second place car because he doesn't want to lift. He doesn't want to lift off the accelerator and give up any sort of room. He wants to stay as close to the leader as possible. Going into Oak Tree, no lockups from either car. Let's see about the exit.
Oh, it's a wonderful bit of driving by Ivan Machado, but he needs the whole of Madison Avenue. And if Victor Miranda continues like this, Shoma Shintani will be there. So too will Byron Mitchell as they fight for the final spot on the podium. It looks like Green and Deet have come together out on circuit. Miranda looking around the outside once more. He's got to find a different way to try and get it done at 13 because he's tried the same trick around the outside of 13, around the outside of 13, and he's expecting a different result, and it's just not coming, and it's starting to become the first sign of madness here for Victor Miranda through the spiral as close as you get.
This section of racetrack that they're coming up to right here is where Miranda had his problem on the last lap on race number 2. You see the cars really jump over those apex curbs. So as long as you have that loaded tire flatten on the ground, that's what you need. But once again, even Machado pulls it out maybe 2 or 3 car lengths through that Grand Course section. Now up to the roller coaster, down the hill. We're going to see if that number 6 car can close that gap because he needs to coming to the last lap.
He absolutely does. If Ivan Machado can find the victory here with Miranda in second, it's Machado who will walk to Road America as the championship leader by 1 solitary championship point. There is Shoma Shintani in third position. Byron Mitchell shadowing every stage of the way, hoping for a podium to go back-to-back here. But the charge of Shintani has been sensational. Caruana could have a shot of that podium as well if those two come together. He's setting fastest laps for fun at this point, hoping that these two find themselves with a little bit of drama in the final stages. Mitchell staying close, but right now Ivan Machado, he's got the gap he wants, but Miranda can use this entire run up the hill towards the South Bend to chase this down.
But look at that gap, almost a half a second between the two of them. I can officially say our second place car is nowhere near as close as he was going up the uphill S's as he was last lap. However, that slipstream, that toe is so powerful. Look at it close in, already down to a quarter of a second. Big wiggle out of Machado coming up over turn 10. This could be the opportunity Miranda's looking for.
Well, it's a leg shaker, this one. It will get the nerves jangling because once more you got to defend it. Once more, hard over to the inside of the circuit. Victor Miranda is going to have to be forced to go the long way around if he wants to make this move happen, but he's got to command the space. And as he goes all the way over to the outside, it's once more Ivan Machado who dictates tempo. Into 13! He slides! And all of a sudden, there goes Victor Miranda, sneaking on through. He's tried and tried and tried, and the one time that even Machado makes the mistake, it's Victor Miranda who will maraud his way through, and as he attacks the spiral right now, he will restore parity in his championship effort as the gap in the championship becomes 5 points once again between them through 17 A, B, C and D, and it might be as easy as 1, 2, 3. Some will say that gap manifesting more and more out there for Victor Miranda, who's proving here today that it's patience that will have to prevail. He has tried for half an hour to try and make that move. A big kicker tail once more from Ivan Machado, which will be fruitless in the long and short. Victor Miranda runs through the hog pen, and it proves that his patience plays again, and he has got himself an absolutely almighty championship effort on his hands. A stalwart show of racing between those two, as Shintani will take the last spot on the podium.
What a race, especially between the top four as we watch Cade Middleton come across in 8th place. Ross Banfield, Leo Ovtcharov, and Michael Polasek with a nice kind of redemption run after some early troubles here at VIR. Watch the rest of the field come across the start-finish line. I can't say enough about Miranda's effort right there. What a great move going into turn 13. Finally got that lockup out of Machado, had the over-under, and capitalized on it.
It just goes to show that you have to keep pushing on a driver. Eventually, every single driver has that breaking point. The last driver over the line will be Andrew Moran on the leading lap here of this race, and that is a huge, huge race in the context of this championship. Up at the front for overall bragging rights honors, Victor Miranda. My word, 17 minutes and 4 seconds of the toughest, hardest fought sim racing to try and find one chink in what seemed to be an indestructible armor. He found the weak spot, and Ivan Machado has to settle for second. Shoma Shintani started 17th overall at the very beginning. Got up to 5th in race 1, 5th to 3rd. Just shows you what a drive he was having overall, with Byron Mitchell 4th and your hard charger, Matt Caruana, plus 14 here today. Definitely proved he had the pace. It was Matt Busa who would end up in 6th, again being consistent ahead of Felipe Cabrera Loyola in 7th. Cade Middleton finds himself in 8th, with Ross Banfield in 9th, a gain of 8 places, and plus 6 for Leo Ovtcharov, who'd round out the top 10.
Then we have Michael Polasek here in 11th place. Sebastian Sedano Chattini in 12th, Clay Morris in 13th, Andrew Moran in 14th. Then unfortunately, everybody else here a couple laps down. Mitchell Ian Green finishing 15th. Cody Deeth, several problems out there on the racetrack. Did not have the day that he was hoping for, finishing 16th. Jeffrey Decker, 17th. Another poor performance for Aiden Young. I know that he was hoping for better, especially with the good results from Coda as well in 18th. Matt Adams, 19th, and Patrick Hingston rounding out the 20 cars today.
Well, it just goes to show you that it's a tough, tough championship, and you have to battle out there for everything. Absolutely everything. Let's talk to that race winner from this second of the battling races that we have had here today. Victor Miranda is going to be the one who will join us right now. And Victor, half an hour's worth of trying to find one overtake on Ivan Machado. You finally got your wish on the last lap of that second race.
Yeah, it's really thought this race. Ivan was so fast. The draft on this car is not enough on this race, but we did on last lap, almost last corner, but we did.
talk about how difficult this grand course was for you, because it's not a circuit that's traditionally run out there in iRacing. You don't see many series going out and using it, and that technical middle sector of the lap, how important was it for you to try and pick and choose the right moment to go out there for those moves, rather than just throwing it into everything and seeing that time bleed away?
I never race on this track, the Grand Course. The new part of track is too difficult. Some blind spots, some hard breaks, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe we did a good lap on quali and was enough to the both race.
Well, let's keep an eye out on what you're looking for. You're looking to be one of those 3 drivers who end up going, of course, in October to the shootout. You sit 5 points clear coming into today. You are 5 points clear coming out of today and heading over to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and what is Road America next for you in 7 days. Will that prove to be a completely different challenge for you with just how draft dependent that circuit is?
Yeah, I think that Road America circuit it's like always draft is too hard on this car, but especially on Road America is harder, you know. It will be so hard to race that, but we try to grab some good points and keep mind on October.
Well, your eyes are very firmly set forward, and that championship lead remaining at 5 points proves just how important it is that every point score matters. Victor Miranda, a victory and a second here today. One of 2 drivers overall who hasn't strayed off the podium this season. The other one is Ivan Machado. He stood by with Joey Atterbury.
Even Machado, first of all, congratulations on a double podium, including the win here in race number 1.
Well, thank you very much. It was actually quite fun to battle with Victor through the world races. I was starting to feel a bit tired by the end of race 2 from having such an intense fight and not being able to rest a single lap. But yeah, it was super fun. A bit angry about myself for the mistake I did in race 2, but still quite happy with the results.
I was going to ask you, what kind of caused that mistake in race number 2? I mean, you pretty much led every single lap tonight. What was it about that turn 13 brake zone that caught you out?
I tried to brake just slightly later because I knew it was the last attack attempt, and just missed it slightly. The rear snapped away from me, and yeah, then I had nothing to do. It was just a mistake, a last lap mistake from trying to push a bit too hard, but still, things that happen.
Very understandable. We go to Road America for the next round. Are you expecting a completely different type of racing, especially with how drafty that place can be?
Yeah, I'm expecting a slipstream fest in Road America. A lot of slipstream and everyone. And a big group, definitely a big group fighting for the top spots.
Well, I know that we will all be watching. Keep up your impressive record. You have yet to be off of the podium here yet this season. Congrats on the win and the second place at VIR.
Thank you very much, and also congrats to all the boys that finished on the podium today. It was a very difficult track, and honestly, only making it to the end was already something to celebrate. So. Yeah, congrats to everybody on the podium.
That was Ivan Machado driving the number 1 car, finishing today with a win in race number 1 and second in race number 2.
Absolutely fantastic. We've got one more driver we got a chance to talk to. Got a podium in the first race here today. 4th in race number 2. A very solid showcase for Byron Mitchell, who's with me right now. Now, Byron, you didn't have necessarily the easiest of times over at the Circuit of the Americas. So a result like this, a 3rd and a 4th here today, that's going to really give you a chance to boost yourself up towards one of those top 3 positions.
Yeah, I do. I definitely think so. You just got to keep chipping away at it. I mean, Kota was unfortunately one of my bad days, if we can put it at that. I just, I wasn't anticipating the extra toe from the cars in front. Just locked up, went straight, and unfortunately ruined my own race in that. But this was definitely much better. I think staying alive in the first race was probably the best thing to do in the first lap. And then those two guys in front, when I knew that they were using each other's toe to pull, I didn't want to try do unnecessary risks to catch them and then make a mistake myself.
It looks like that through all of the racing today, it's been incredibly crazy, especially in the mid to late of the pack. You didn't necessarily see too much of that, but when you're seeing drivers gaining plus 10, plus 12, plus 14 that you're seeing behind you, does it really give you a sense of just how important it was for you to get up near the front and stay out of trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's always like that, especially in any racing. The way you qualify is important, and you just have to keep pushing forward, and hopefully that you stay clear of all the drama. And I mean, when those guys are chasing, some of the fast guys were chasing from the back here in the last race and the first race, and they did really well to work their way up. But, luckily for me, I don't focus on what's behind me. I just try to go forward.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, I believe it's about 2 o'clock in the morning right now where you are at this point in time. So getting up and really trying to get as much you can going forward. How much does this series mean to you to try and get this drive and this opportunity, knowing that you're getting up in the dead of night to try and get these results?
So I've actually done one more than that. I'm actually in America. I've flown all the way out here with family friends just for the series. So the series is like, at my very moment, it's like basically everything. It's very important for me. I'm just trying my best, got to chip away at it, and hopefully we can make the top 3 when the flag drops for the last race.
Well, there's going the extra mile, and then there's being Byron Mitchell there, a podium at a 4th position. Absolutely fantastic to see. We wish you the best of luck in the future races, and hopefully we'll see you at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin in 1 week's time. But, Joey, that pretty much is going to bring the curtain down here from Alton, Virginia. Not for the last time this season. We'll come back here for the finale, but as a prelude to what we have seen, the question now has to be asked here. You've got 2 drivers, 1 and 2, head and shoulders in this championship. Has this suddenly just turned into a championship where everybody else is just fighting for 1 championship space?
I think it could be, but let's not forget about some of the names that were really, really fast at COTA that didn't have a good day here at VIR on the Grand Course, a course that we heard a lot of these drivers don't even race here in the simulator. So it might be an off day for some of those drivers. I was looking at Offdrav, I was looking at Cody Deeth. Those drivers definitely well down the order from what we saw in round number 1. We still have 3 rounds left, plenty of time to kind of recover. But you're right, those 2 starting off so strong, they're building themselves a nice points gap, and when it matters to be in the top 3 at the end, they put themselves in a good position.
And this is the best place to jump on it here with us, of course, at iRacing and the Global Sim Racing channel, the Skip Barber Racing School Formula iRacing series. Simply put, is one of the most amazing bits of battling out there that you can see. Want to give a massive thanks to everyone who has got this one done over the line for us today, from Joey, of course, from Daniel, and from the likes of Dougie, who's been on the cameras as well. There is so much amazing action that is coming through that you can get your jumps on with iRacing, and it is simply put 1 level above when you can just go out there and have so much fun racing. There is always something for you there out there on the service. So what are you waiting for? Join if this is the first time that you've had the chance to already. A championship which is now looking like it is 1 versus 2. Miranda and Machado. Even keel here today at VIR. Stasis remains the same as we take our eyes forward towards Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It is, of course, America's road circuit of America's road circuits. It is Road America, and it is one track which brings one thing and one thing plainly into view. It's about the draft. It's about staying in range. And lest we forget what happened last year in the championship, where it got decided here at this circuit turn 1 of the final race of the championship. It won't do so much this time as it forms the middle round overall, but keep your eyes firmly pointed forward because this championship continues to be amazing, and we'll see you in 7 days' time.
This is iRacing.